All right, welcome to Smokey Reacts. I'm your boy Jurnalist, and on this one, we are here to check out the UFC fighter who stole 50 million. Got my boy Cook with me on another one. Say what's up, my boy.
What's happening? How you doing?
All right, now, hey, if you guys could please hit that like and subscribe. We are actively trying to grow the channel. And are we announcing shows or anything while we're doing this? Is that okay? So on the 28th, if you are in Edinburgh, come to Leith Arches. We got a show. Come by, come hang out, have a what is it, a pint?
Have a pint, gin and tonic, whatever you feel like. There's a bar,
You know what I'm
there's
saying?
food, it's a cool venue, cool people. Gonna be a Halloween party, so feel free to dress up.
You know what I'm saying?
You know, Rick James might be there.
It might happen.
Might happen. So, aye.
But that said, let's get into this one, and yeah, let's see who stole fucking 50 million though. God damn, that's a lot of money.
Especially for a UFC fight.
Like a,
Right?
he's
Like
like
most of them never even see that in their career.
Wasn't Lee Murray like a? I heard he's like a fucking debt collector or something over there.
Oh,
And
he's
Lee
way
Murray,
more
gangster.
He's
fucking,
the most gangsterest gangster that ever gangstered. Lee Murray is responsible. He was one part of the biggest armed robbery in
that's
the
what it was.
history
That's
of
what it was.
England.
That's
Yeah.
what it was.
Now
He's
isn't
still
he
in jail.
Jail in Morocco.
Yep. He got a girl pregnant from jail.
How you could have been pregnant from jail? Jesus. I'd say this is a motherfucking inside job. How the fuck did 50 million end up in one place at one time? In cash.
I don't know, in London. I'm guessing it's gonna be in London, right? And I mean, there will be some kind of inside job for sure.
Somebody had to.
They'll have had the tip. Not sure, maybe an inside.
Like,
they
but
might
yeah,
have
I'm
had
saying
that
like there's a
tip-off.
tip off of there's a pressure point where there's fucking 50
Yeah.
million sitting in a spot at one point.
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody
yeah.
said something. Like, cause Jesus Christ, this is a lot of money at one point in cash, liquid. What?
Lightning Lee Murray, part-time cage fighter, full-time gangster, a heavy hitter in the octagon and an equally heavy hitter in the London underworld. A man with such a fearsome reputation that police in London were advised to avoid him. From UFC fighter with a bout against Anderson Silva on his record, to being the mastermind behind the biggest cash robbery in world history. This is the true story of Lee Murray's crazy life, from beginning to end.
It does look like a menace.
Lee Murray's road to infamy began in southeast London, where he was born in 1977 to a British mother and a Moroccan father. The young Lee Murray had a penchant for violence from a very early age. While attending primary school, he and kids from his estate banded together to form the Buttmarsh Boys, named after the Buttmarsh estate they lived on. The Buttmarsh Boys frequently engaged in brawls with kids from other estates, with the aim of defending Buttmarsh in a childlike version of a turf war. When he wasn't fighting in the streets, the young Lee Murray was fighting at home with his father, who was often drunk and very violent to the point he'd been warned by police for mistreating his children. Lee would fight back against his father, but with no success, until the day he snapped and knocked his father out cold with a single punch. Lee's next door neighbour at the time believes it was this knockout of his father that turned Lee into the extremely violent man he was to become. Once he realised he could take out a man of his father's size at such a young age, his confidence and cockiness grew massively. Lee's father eventually moved out of the family home, fearing that if he didn't, the fights with his son would eventually result in death. Lee Murray entered secondary school, where he would meet his best friend and literal partner in crime, Paul Allen. Lee was a terrible student and teachers found him unmanageable, leading him to eventually be expelled from the school. He completed his required education at a different school, but by now was more focused on fully immersing himself into London's criminal underworld, with stealing and drug dealing his careers of choice. Lee took his first rise up the ranks of crime when he and his friends in the Buttmarsh Boys gang became embroiled in a turf war against a gang of Nigerian drug dealers who had mugged Lee's friends and stolen their wallets and phones. The Buttmarsh Boys responded with swift and extreme violence and ended up chasing the Nigerian gang out of their area. With the Nigerians defeated, the Buttmarsh boys inherited the territory and drug trade that they had left behind,
Nigerians
and Lee
are
began
defeated.
selling drugs on a larger scale. He also gained a reputation as a fierce debt collector, more than happy to resort to violence against those who didn't pay him on time. Together with his associate Mark the Beast.
Who the fuck is dumb enough to borrow money from a nigga like this? Who the fuck is like, oh yeah, let me get a tick. Just let me hold a little something till Wednesday. I'm not owing this nigga a fucking thing.
No, no.
This nigga, no. That nigga's a menace.
To be fair, that's why we'd be classed Conor McGregor or something. Like when I did MMA and I was good at it, like it was fun just like being a wee dick. Cause like imagine this guy Conor McGregor's Conor's ready for him. Like, although to be fair, that guy in a few.
I'm gonna play you a song by G Perico and Rimble after this. And everything you just said is exactly why I know I'm fucking American. Cause that shit don't make no fucking sense.
Why not?
Nigga, you ain't tougher than a bullet? The fuck?
Oh,
Niggas
right,
weave
yeah.
a little dick. I don't care.
Yeah.
You niggas, hey, you a bodybuilder, you should get rid of that mindset. I'm trying to tell you. That shit don't help you. But granted, some like where you do actually live, you can actually you can smack people around a little bit more. Where I live, nigga, come back, just spray the whole block up. It's not possible.
That's all right, man. I'm like the Matrix, bro. Man's
Nigga
out here,
hitting the Neo.
man's out here, like, you know what I mean? Look, like I can even do it on my chair right now as we speak. Do this, bro. You can't touch this. Nah, but also Conor, like in a few years, it's gonna come out that Conor's got like extreme links to like Irish gangs as well, for sure. Like
Has to,
like,
bro.
he's-
Copper
he's-
12 got sold way too fast.
Yeah, man. He already mucks about with like mad criminals. Like you know what I mean? He's like a schemy laddie, like from Ireland. Like he's obviously not as crazy as this guy, but
Nah. He made money fast enough. He didn't have to do no shit like this.
yeah, that's true. That is
Because
true.
the only reason he did this is because he's like, I see the kind of money that's around me, and I don't have enough. But I'm about to go take that shit off of somebody. God damn it.
Beast Epstein, Lee began to make serious
About
money selling crack
preparations.
cocaine. But this increased success brought him increased attention
Oh,
from the
money,
police, and he was eventually caught and sent to Feltham Young Offenders Institution after police found them in possession of cocaine and marijuana. After his release from Feltham, Lee developed a fanatical obsession with weightlifting as he sought to add muscle to his skinny 6'3" frame, and he was joined in the gym by best mate Paul Allen,
That's
who by
just
this
Buff
time
JK.
had earned himself the
You
nickname
can't tell me
of
nothing
the
different.
Enforcer
That's Buff
for his
JK.
work in the drug dealing business. The pair
Let's talk about these two.
earned
My man in the Capri Sun, no. I have no issue with the Capri Sun. I'm not about to flame him for it. My question is, you've been to America. Have you had one of those in America?
No.
Fuck. I didn't want to have to spend money on it. All right, I'm going to do a video and see if it's any good. Because I'm like, I don't need to do a fancy. I already had
No.
one the last time. Iron
Yeah,
Brew's already calm.
Fantas. Yeah.
Like, see, I'm mad I did certain things already the first time around.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, oh, man, Iron Brew would go up. Iron Brew would go ham.
Just do like black pudding or something.
Yeah. I
White
had
pudding.
isn't that the same thing? What the fuck's white pudding made out of?
To be fair, I actually don't know how white pudding's made, but like you can.
You trying to feed me some
yeah,
shit you don't know how it's made though?
Yeah, but like, you can get some white pudding, bro. You can evaluate it.
White pudding.
It's probably pretty similar. It's some form of sausage.
That's not even pudding, bro. This is how I know euphemistic moms speaking to their fucking kids was like, oh yeah, this terrible shit you need to eat today. It's a pudding, baby. That's how everything got called a pudding. Your sweet dessert and some bullshit you had to eat are both called a pudding. How dare you? How no.
himself the nickname
That's
of
bullshit.
the Enforcer
That's
for
what you
his
call
work
someone
in
who's
the drug
adapted.
dealing
So
business.
you're a pudding.
The pair
Oh,
began
yeah,
to
you
use
fucking
steroids,
donut.
leading to
I like that
seriously
one.
impressive
Donut.
and intimidating physiques, which no doubt aided them in their chosen profession of drug dealing and debt collecting, in which they were both becoming increasingly successful. By this point, they were driving very flashy cars, buying
That boy
expensive
look
clothes,
crazy.
and throwing wild parties. Naturally, this
That
sort
boy
of
looks high
behaviour
on
attracted
cocaine.
more attention from police.
Yeah, that's what
It
I'm
was
saying. He
here
look
that
crazy.
Lee began to develop a reputation for slipping through the net and getting away with crimes that others couldn't. Lee Murray would frequently taunt and intimidate police officers, and a failed attempt at placing an informant into Lee's
Nah. I'm not gonna let this narrative go. You motherfuckers all taunt the police over here. There is a lack of respect for the police over here. And I'm not saying that like I fuck with the police, but you're not gonna tell me the criminal taunts the police more than I've seen regular civilians taunt the police. I'll see a fucking pensioner fucking talk shit to the police out here. So fuck that shit. Everybody talks to police out here crazy.
Yeah, true.
The fuck?
He'll be really taunting them.
He is not, but I don't care. Everybody shouts abuse at the police, as you guys would say.
Yeah, sometimes not on that extreme
This
level.
nigga, I was at a club out here. This nigga said, "What the fuck you say to me, ma'am? You bring your ass back to me," and then walk down on the bitch. Do you understand how mad that is to me? As an American, to see somebody say, "What the fuck did you say to me?" and then walk the cop back down because she tried to walk off. What? That's mental. You all do. Oh, the abuse I've seen police receive is hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can imagine, then he's obviously 10 times worse of that.
If it's just words, I have no problem.
I can imagine he's properly like.
If he's like
do you know
being
what I'm saying?
intimidating, towering and shit,
and
that's
I
different.
can imagine he's probably also like. Right, there's like the police like coming up to you and like you sitting smoking and that, and then like the police coming up to you and you've been like right off, like, and then there's like actively seeing every police officer that you can on the street coming up to them being like, "What's happening, you fucking dickhead?" You know what I'm saying?
I love that shit. When we was walking with Nick, and that nigga was like, "Hey, he's young enough to be my nephew." I was like, "Oh, this is wonderful." This nigga talking to the police like that and shit is hilarious.
To be fair, they are, and especially in Scotland and Edinburgh, they are hilarious. Like,
I barely see any, anyways.
There's been some. I've had so many funny like exchanges with them. It's like they'll come into a house and they're like, "Guys, can you please turn it down? Just your neighbours have complained," and everyone's like, "Aye, sound mate." Like as if we're gonna like they go away.
Like nobody got up. Like, yo, you can go now. Like you tried. You can at least tell her like you told him.
You know what though? It's quite nice having nice police officers. Like
it's
in London,
shit.
like you've obviously got to be more treacherous because like they will just do the whole like stop and start search thing and that as well.
That's
like
just mad to me.
if you got like weed on you or that, like if you walk up to a police officer and you got weed in your pocket and you're like, "What's happening, dickhead?" They'll be like, "What's happening?" Open your get your pockets emptied. You know what I mean? Especially as a young black guy. But,
That's crazy.
So like you do need to be careful. But in Edinburgh, man, just take the piss.
Oh yeah, nah.
But
I barely see him over here.
in this city, man.
Yeah, I be walking the streets late as shit, and I'm just like, bro, it's amazing. Nobody's out here,
It's nice.
and I see no police officers. It's amazing. Leave me the fuck alone.
It's
This is an
nice.
amazing walk. Like, yo, a walk at 3 a.m. in Edinburgh is amazing.
Oh, it's class.
It's
yeah.
amazing. Oh, just burn a fucking zoo? Blood. Couple laps around the block, you're like, oh, man. Can't wait to go lay down.
It's one of the best cities in the world for sure.
Man, it's lit.
Lee's gang only encouraged this behaviour.
Kanye.
Lee was known to occasionally follow police officers around
I swear to God, we should have reacted to that Kanye Pierce
we
Morgan
should've,
shit.
man.
That shit was
Yeah.
mental.
It's
in his
lit.
car,
That would be
and
lit.
some officers were warned by their superiors that it was best to avoid aggravating him, as he was considered a very dangerous and threatening man. Lee would display his ability to avoid justice in January 1999, when in the midst of a turf war with a rival gang, police jailed more than a
Man would display his ability to avoid justice. It's a hell of a sentence. A nigga got an ability to avoid justice. Like, what's your power, cuz? I can avoid justice. I'm sorry. Nigga stealing grapes. Nigga just like, yo, you want that Kinder Cut? It's the 30 pence. I can avoid justice. Alright, I'm sorry.
threatening man. Lee would display his ability to avoid justice in January 1999, when in the midst of a turf war with a rival gang, police jailed more than a dozen of Lee's associates, including Mark Epstein, who was locked up for 3 years. Remarkably, despite the fact that he was a major player in the gang and known to police, Lee slipped through the net and remained on the streets while
dudes that
people
look
who
like
were
the
less
guy on the
involved
left.
served time in
Yeah,
prison.
man.
This narrow escape from prison, combined with the birth of his first child, could have potentially been the inspiration for Lee to enter the world of cage fighting, as he started training martial arts
Steady
not long
income.
after these events. A
Rocky
veteran
broke
of
niggas
many
in
street
cash.
fights, Lee Murray took to the sport quickly, particularly the striking element, and he had his first official fight after less than 6 months of training in May 1999. It was this fight that earned Lee his nickname of Lightning, as he knocked out opponent Rob Hudson in the first round, leading to the event promoter to remark that his punches were as quick as lightning. And with that quote, Lightning Lee Murray was born, and his successful debut encouraged Lee to begin training more seriously. He started to run more frequently and began attending 2 gyms.
What's my man in the back looking at? What's my nigga looking at, yo? My nigga is on one. He either just didn't hit a line, or he's like, yo, my man got back.
Both of them are as well. Like he is too.
He's like, what are we doing here? It is a sickness.
Gyms to train, Peacock's gym to work on his striking, and London shoot fighters to hone his severely lacking ground game. With this increased training regimen, Lee had a big year in 2000 with 4 fights. His first fight of the year displayed the work he'd put into his ground game, as he won via Kimura submission in the first round against a fighter with a career 2 wins, 5 losses. On the face of it, this may seem like a fairly unremarkable win, but Lee would later divulge some extraordinary details of his preparation for the fight on MMA forum Sherdog. The night before the fight, Lee was in a pub watching a Prince Nazim Hamed fight when a man moved in front of him, blocking his view of the TV. This started an argument which quickly escalated and led to a fight that ended with Lee Murray knocking the man, his friend, and a barman out cold. After legging it from the pub before police could arrive, Lee realised he was unable to close his left hand and had broken it in the scuffle. With his fight scheduled the next day, his friend tried to convince him to pull out, but Lee decided to fight anyway, and despite only being able to use his right hand, he was still able to secure the win. A fairly unconventional way of getting ready for a fight, that's for sure. Despite that win coming via submission, Lee still felt his ground game wasn't up to scratch. The UK has a rich history of producing world-class boxers, but there isn't a strong wrestling or jiu-jitsu culture here like there is in other countries. This leads to a lot of British MMA fighters getting demolished when facing an opponent whose strength is their ground game. With this in mind, Lee packed his bags and headed for Iowa to train at the renowned Militich Fighting Systems camp, ran by a renowned wrestler and former UFC champion Pat Militich. Among those training at the gym was UFC legend Robbie Lawler, who paid tribute to the world-class punching power of the Brit, saying it sounded like gunfire when he was hitting the pads. Away from the distractions of his life in London, Lee focused on his training and worked hard to try and fix the holes in his game. While in America, Lee entered a 4-man tournament in Wisconsin, in which he would suffer the first loss of his career. After a round 1 victory in his first fight, he was submitted via armbar in the final, highlighting the deficiencies still present in his ground game. With his record standing at 3 wins, 1 loss, Lee returned to England having blown through all the money he'd brought with him to Iowa. Murray had 1 final fight to round the year 2000 off, with a bizarre no contest result after his opponent collapsed due to exhaustion in the very first round. Lee continued to fight regularly in 2001 and added...
Explain to me a no contest. Does that mean I knocked that nigga out still?
No, it's like
Like an actual no contest.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
just
yeah.
that blatant. Like
Yeah,
we're
like
just
they
not
give-
gonna scrap this.
yeah.
So when I do my record though, say I'm 1-1-1-1, so I got 1 win, loss, and a draw.
And then a no contest.
So it would just be labeled as a no contest.
Yeah.
Okay.
added a draw and a win to his record, making him England's most famous MMA fighter at the time. This reputation would become cemented when arguably the most famous fight of Lee Murray's career occurred. Fittingly, the fight that would put Lee on the UFC's radar wasn't a sanctioned bout in the octagon, but instead a street fight against a UFC champion. Lee attended the UFC's first ever London event, headlined by Pat Militich trained fighter Matt Hughes. Following the conclusion of the event, an after party with the fighters was held at London nightclub Funky
Shout
Buddha,
out Funky
a
Buddha.
tradition in the UFC, with the attendees including the likes of Pat Militich, Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. At closing time, one of Tito Ortiz's friends gave Pat Militich a playful bear hug from behind as a joke. However, this was misinterpreted by Lee's best friend Paul Allen as an attack on Militich, and Allen responded by knocking Ortiz's friend out cold. This knockout triggered absolute carnage,
Imagine knocking a man out because he gave your boy too hard of a hug from the back,
Yeah,
and he was
like,
like, "I ain't like that."
Christ. Jesus.
Jeez.
as fights broke out everywhere. In the midst of the absolute mayhem that included Chuck
Tito.
Liddell knocking out people left and right, a furious Tito Ortiz squared off with Lee Murray, seeking revenge for his friend who had just been punched. Facing off in an alleyway, Tito threw a left hook that narrowly missed Murray. Lee Murray responded with a 5-punch combination, with every punch connecting, then knocked Ortiz out and dropped him to the floor. Lee followed up with 2 kicks to the head before being pulled away. The UFC's light heavyweight champion of the world had just been knocked out by an up-and-coming British middleweight, and as news of the fight spread, it sent shockwaves around the MMA world, massively enhancing Lee's reputation. To this day, Tito Ortiz still disputes that he was knocked out. However, this is contradicted by witnesses like Miletich and Matt Hughes, who assert that Lee Murray did indeed knock out the UFC's light heavyweight king.
Lee got out of the way of all the punches, threw a 5-punch combo back at Tito. Every punch landed. Very hard punches, and Tito went down, landed on his face unconscious, and Lee started to punt him in the head with his steel-toed boots on.
Lee capitalized on the buzz his fight with Ortiz had created with 3 straight wins.
The steel-toe booted is
Each
what
win
makes it.
only
You know what's mad about this, right? Is like the average fight where like you knock someone out
Yeah.
and then you steel toe kick them in the head repeatedly, ends in you going to jail.
Yeah.
But this guy got a UFC contract.
Facts like, yo, you knocked out one of our best. No, fuck all that. A nigga got up after all of this and went back to going to fight some more. You took 5 regular bare fist blows, couple of steel toe boots to the face, and it was like, I can work against him.
Yeah.
2-3 months, so I'll get out there. A couple of sit-ups, speed bag, no time at the psychologist or neurologist. Just we'll be back out there. CTE doing this.
Mad, like mad,
Fuck.
mad.
These niggas is wild.
increasing the calls for the UFC to sign him. One of these wins coming after just 4 seconds by
Catch
the
a
way
body
of
blow from
knockout.
this nigga.
Lee's
He's
friends
stone
stormed the ring
pure
to
pork,
celebrate,
like
leading
bad
to a
intentions.
massive table-topping riot in the arena. This led to the event promoter urging Lee to be banned from the sport as his people were too crazy. With his record standing at 6 wins, 1 loss and 1 draw, Lee faced off against Brazilian fighter Jose Landy Johns,
you about to
or
fuck him.
Pele as he was more commonly known, in July 2003. This fight took place in London, and another Lee Murray knockout sent the crowd absolutely crazy, with some of the wildest celebrations I've ever seen from an MMA crowd. In his post-fight interview, Lee implored the
That's
UFC to
Bloodsport levels.
sign him, stating that they had to take him now, and they finally listened. 6 months later, Lee got the call from the UFC he'd been waiting
just
on,
looked like a
and a
rock star
fight
right
with
there.
Jorge Rivera was booked for Las Vegas. Lee Murray was about
hate
to
niggas
fulfill
with
a
fucking
long-held
mustaches and
dream
shit.
and had the opportunity
It's
to
so
turn
thin,
fighting
bro.
into
Yeah,
a
man.
legitimate
What are you doing?
career. Lee Murray's UFC debut came at UFC 46 in January 2004, and he chose to wear a Silence of the Lambs mask and orange jumpsuit for his
shit
walkout,
fitting.
which would prove oddly prophetic later in life. The fight started with Rivera scoring a takedown on Lee, which earlier in his career would have been a nightmare scenario, but the work he'd put in to improve his wrestling and jiu-jitsu paid off, as he locked in an armbar and hyperextended Rivera's elbow, forcing him to tap. Lee Murray had officially arrived on the world stage and looked set to put the UK on the map for MMA 2 years before a certain Michael Bisping would make his UFC debut. Lee used his post-fight interview with Joe Rogan to call out former foe Tito Ortiz, who was in attendance for the fight, getting a huge pop from the crowd in the process. The future genuinely did look bright for Lee in the UFC, but unfortunately his gangster lifestyle would catch up with him and end his UFC career before it ever really got started. A few months after his UFC triumph, Lee was arrested and charged with grievous bodily
The crime.
Stabbed cage brawl.
I'm not even looking at that part. I'm looking at the crime picture of Kanye. I didn't even care about the story. It's like, one nigga, you ain't crying. What the fuck is going on? Where this nigga get his news from?
I don't know,
Jeez.
Daily Mail or something like
That's
that.
this might be
Or the
BuzzFeed.
Guardian.
Isn't that the BuzzFeed logo? Or is that just
Nah.
really the most read? Like,
The Guardian or Daily Mail. They're the red themes.
oh, okay.
Wait, what does he say? The fighter quickly injured in a knife brawl. Oh, it was Byford Road.
What? You know what though? It make a lot of sense.
So he was stabbed.
Yeah, I couldn't give my nigga the fair one. He's too upset, angry. He fight like a demon. He punch with bad intentions. He really want to do damage. He is everything I tell you that's necessary for a nigga to win a fight. Personified. Like, no, I'm not even talking about a gun. I see why somebody decided to stab his ass. Like, I'm not doing this straight up, nigga. I'm trying to even the playing field somehow.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
The fuck?
Tito Ortiz is no.
What? A 5-punch combo. The fuck are you, It Man? The fuck is this shit?
Yeah, literally.
Bodily harm stemming from a road rage incident that left the victim in a coma. The incident had actually occurred before his UFC debut, and Lee had hidden the fact that he was under investigation from the UFC. While this prosecution was ongoing, Lee was unable to secure a US visa, and with the UFC not regularly yet holding events internationally, Lee's career in the UFC was effectively over, and the $78,000 contract he'd been offered was gone. The charge was eventually thrown out when the jury failed to reach a verdict, but Lee was still unable to get a US visa and opted to sign with UK-based promotion Cage Rage to continue his MMA career. Lee's first fight in Cage Rage would come against none other than UFC legend and future Hall of Famer Anderson Silva. The build-up to this fight was very intense, with Anderson Silva remarking that Lee talked an incredible amount of shit,
supposed to be, right?
and the weigh-in almost ended in violence. The fight itself was a close affair, with Lee giving a good account of himself in a narrow points loss, taking his record to 8 wins, 2 losses and a draw. This was a loss that would look better with time, as Anderson Silva went on to conquer the UFC and cement himself as one of the best fighters of all time. If Lee could hang with someone as talented as Anderson Silva, then surely he had a promising future in MMA, right? Well, no, because once again Lee's gangster lifestyle would catch up with him, and this time it would end his
like he don't get to have a gangster lifestyle. Like that gangster lifestyle, that son of a bitch having a good time.
Lee was involved in a scuffle that resulted in him being stabbed and one of his nipples being sliced off. You'd think he might avoid the Funky Buddha for a while after this attack, but no, he went back the very next weekend for the birthday party of glamour model Lauren Pope. At some point, yet another brawl involving Lee broke out, and Lee was stabbed repeatedly in the chest, suffering life-threatening wounds far more serious than he'd gotten the previous weekend. With blood shooting out of his chest, Lee was rushed to hospital, where he had to be resuscitated 4 times and barely escaped with his life. Lee's life was saved thanks to nurses running bags of blood to the hospital to replace the 8 pints of blood he had lost. 3 weeks after this almost fatal stabbing, somehow Lee was back in the gym training for a comeback, but he would never fight professionally again. His body was covered in scars from stab and gunshot wounds, and promoters were less willing to
My man has 2 nipples. This is poor journalism.
One must be fake.
How do you have a fake nipple blood?
Probably quite easy.
Probably quite easy. Have you seen what fucking breast surgery looks like? It's not just easy.
Be plastic, I guess.
Oh, we plastic thing. Ow. Hey, that nigga look like a goddamn shark bit his ass. Goddamn.
Yeah, man, he does look fucked.
Boy, need a hug. Shit. Now, hey, you know what? My nigga for sure play Sean Connery, though. He probably not even fucking Scottish in any way. I don't give a fuck. Bring him up. Put him in there. And hopefully he has a good accent.
take the risk of letting him fight.
Nah, let him do it in a Moroccan
MMA
accent.
was slowly moving into the mainstream. Knowing his chances of an elite-level MMA career were over, Lee Murray decided to focus his energy into his original career choice, crime, and in a way that would send shockwaves around the globe with a world record-setting heist.
I was more sure amazed than shocked.
February 21st, 2006 seemed
this?
like any other day for Colin Dixon. He'd woken up at 6:30 a.m. sharp as usual, he'd had his breakfast, and then he'd made the hour-long journey to his workplace.
You can finesse the law by saying I was filming a reconstruction, but you did the whole crime for real. And it's just that small little gray area. Like, look, hey, but you really did take the $50 million. It's a reconstruction. I had to take the $50 million. What do you want me to do? Just act like it didn't happen? We're reconstructing it.
the Securitas Cash Depot in Tunbridge, Kent. Colin was manager of the cash depot, and after handing over responsibility to the night shift manager, he clocked out and began to make the hour-long journey home to have dinner with his family. Colin was about halfway home and driving through a small and quiet village when a car behind him began flashing its headlights at him and then turned on blue police lights. Assuming he was being pulled over by an unmarked police car, Colin stopped his vehicle and pulled over to the side of the road, wondering what on earth he could have done to get pulled over. A man in full police uniform hopped out of the car and instructed Colin to get into the back of the police vehicle, as he informed him the police had received several reports that Colin had been caught speeding. Colin was immediately handcuffed and joined in the back of the car by another man in police uniform, who told him, "You may have guessed that we are not policemen. Don't do anything silly and you will not get hurt," as he brandished a 9mm pistol to drive the point home. With Colin Dixon kidnapped, the policemen met up with other members of their gang and drove Colin to a countryside farm before setting the next part of their plan into motion. The same policeman drove to Colin's family home and informed his wife that Colin had been involved in a serious accident. When she accepted the policeman's offer of a ride to the hospital with her child to visit her husband, she too had a gun pulled on her and was taken.
Get you a bird that don't trust the motherfucking police enough to take a ride to the hospital. Motherfucker, if you love me enough, you better be able to love me enough to drive to where the fuck I'm at. Matter of fact, she's gonna know that this some bullshit. This don't sound like me. That nigga got hit by a car and called.
Yeah, but like, if the police show up at your door, and like they're clearly men who are like,
I need paperwork.
As she says no, like, do you think that they're gonna be like, all right, sound, don't then? They just gotta drag her out the
I'm not
house.
saying that. I'm just more so saying I need a bird that's far more suspicious than just, oh, it's a panic moment. Let me catch a ride with these niggas. I need a bird that's like, all right, sound. I'll sort it. Like, thank you for letting me know what's going on in this nigga. Like, granted, you're right though. Like, I think, oh, she sorted, just closed the door. I don't think that part is gonna happen.
No.
But the fact that she just gets in the car, I'm just like, nah. This just seems like you just didn't ask enough questions. You just heard your nigga was hit.
Wow.
It's a good plan. Don't get me wrong. I'm just like, I need my bird to be far more suspicious.
Yeah.
Niggas this is a crazy world we live in. Motherfuckers just
Well,
show up and do fake police shit at your door.
Yeah, man, they smashed it.
This is a good plan.
They have smashed it. Like, this is some movie shit. Anyway.
Yeah.
Taken to the same countryside farm where Colin was being held. The gang brought Colin's wife and kids to him so he could see they had also been taken hostage, and they demanded full and complete cooperation from him, or they would both be killed. With his family's life hanging in the balance, Colin decided to fully cooperate and assist the gang in robbing his workplace. Colin helped them to gain access past the heavy security that surrounded the cash depot, and begged his work colleagues not to press any alarms that would alert police. The gang rounded up all of the staff members who might have been able to alert police, and tied them up with a member of the crew assigned to keep watch over them.
These motherfuckers
A number of staff were equipped with panic buttons that, when pressed, would immediately alert police at a station only 300 yards away from the cash depot. But when approached by a panic-stricken Colin and informed that his family were being held hostage, they decided against pressing the button and allowed the robbers to remove their alarms. With the staff subdued and no longer an obstacle, the robbers shifted focus onto the main reason they were there: money. The gang had chosen an extremely good time to rob the cash depot, as it contained over £200 million of cash, far more than was typically kept in a depot. The gang also had an extraordinary amount of information on the layout and security features of the cash depot, even though its existence was purposefully kept as discreet as possible. Anything the gang didn't already know could be answered by Colin Dixon, who also helped to disable security measures that may have alerted police to the robbery. The gang set about loading as much of the £200 million worth of cash on offer into the lorry they had brought for the job as it could fit. In just under 2 hours, the gang was able to load an astonishing £53.1 million into the lorry until it was filled to the brim with bundles of cash. Sweaty and
Why couldn't we take it all? In an hour?
Couldn't fit it.
It'd take an hour to move $50 million?
To be fair, probably, aye.
That's ridiculous.
It's quite a lot of money.
That's ridiculous. What the nomination was this? It's got to be like 20s or something.
Yeah, man. Well, it's probably got all of the 5s,
Shit.
10s.
Even with 100, you think it'd be that long? 100, we couldn't move. Fuck. Damn. An hour it took 4 niggas an hour to move 50 M's.
Well, 2 or 3, because mine there's one that's watching the.
2-3 people, 50 million in an hour is fucking. Them boys was working. Shit.
Exhausted from moving the huge stacks of cash, the gang began to make preparations for their exit, first moving the staff and putting them into the cash cages. Next, Colin Dixon's wife and child were brought into the cash depot and also locked into a cash cage. Next, the gang disposed of anything containing their DNA, including cups that they had been drinking from. Finally, they warned the victims not to try anything silly and threatened them with the various machine guns and pistols they had used for the heist. With everything taken care of, they made their escape in the cars and lorry they had brought to the depot. The gang vanished into the night with every single member now a multi-millionaire. Their victims were so terrified that it took them a while before trying to escape the cages, as they feared the gang hadn't left yet. Even after escaping the cages, they were so shell-shocked that they didn't immediately press the alarm to alert police, fearing that the gang could be outside. This was completely irrational, as now that the gang was outside of the depot, they had no way of getting back in unless they were let in. But this goes to show how terrified the victims had been. By the time the alarm was raised, the robbers had a 30-minute head start on their escape and were long gone by the time police arrived. The robbers had only spent just over an hour in the depot, but still came away with over £53 million, and it would have been even more if they had fought to bring a bigger lorry. To this day, the Securitas Cash Depot robbery still ranks as the largest cash robbery in world history, and it had been masterminded by none other than Lightning Lee Murray. But pulling off the robbery was one thing. Could they really hide such a massive amount of physical cash from the police?
The Queen is dead.
While the heist itself was well planned, well thought out and well executed, everything that came after was anything but. Like a lot of criminals, they hadn't properly planned where they were going to hide the money, and some key elements like disposing of 2 cars used in the robbery had not been pre-arranged. The gang had been careful when destroying any evidence in the cash depot, but outside they made amateur mistakes and failed to destroy all evidence, like one robber continuing to use his mobile phone instead of destroying it like the rest of them had. As soon as
Cheap bastard.
Yeah, like you
You
got
cheap
you have
fucking
10 million
bastard.
and you're still using your shite Nokia.
Oh my fucking, it's like we can't have nothing good. $50 fucking million and you using a fucking throwaway that's 20 quid. Oh fuck, his mother doesn't love him. His mother doesn't love him. Fuck that guy. Jesus. We did this shit and didn't fucking shoot or hurt a single person.
I know, like,
And we got taken down by some cunt in a cell phone. Oh. Jesus. Oh yeah, no, that's terrible.
As the robbery made its way to the news, it created a media frenzy like no other, with reporters from every outlet imaginable scrambling to get to Tunbridge for more information on the heist of the century. Predictably, an equally huge police investigation was launched, and within a day police were already hearing rumours that ex-UFC fighter Lee Murray was involved. They also received a huge tip-off that makeup artist Michelle Hogg had been involved in helping to disguise the gang, and immediately went to arrest her. It was here that the plot began to unravel, as while Michelle Hogg was being questioned, a search of her flat revealed numerous pieces of evidence linking several men to the robbery, including a pot of paint with Lee M scrawled onto it. I'll let you guess who Lee M was. Police scored another big win when, acting on a tip-off, they found a Volvo van linked to 2 men, Leah Russia and Jetmir Bushpapa, that contained over 1.3 million in cash, a scorpion gun and a balaclava. Subsequent police raids on Leah Russia and Jetmir Bushpapa's addresses brought up more damning evidence, like Jetmir's car sat-nav having...
Every nigga involved deserved to go to jail. You niggas planned a fucking Ocean's 11 up until driving out of that motherfucker. And once you drove out of there, you was like, hey, this sounds like a good idea, eh? I think maybe we burn the cars, but not everything. I'm going to keep my phone. I'm going to keep $1 million above ground in a van that just niggas could walk up to. Like what?
The fact that he'd, like, tracked down, like, the guy who was the, like, manager of the security, of the Securitas depot. Like, they've gone to this amount of information. They know, like, where his house Like, they have got this guy's wife in that. Like, they have went to so deep length. And then they didn't think about where they were putting the cash. Like, where they putting the cash. Or plan to destroy everything. Like, I don't even really have that much more to say, but I'm just like,
This is bullshit.
I'm just like, what? How you fucked it?
Colin Dixon's
I thought my
address
nigga was gonna be
in
way
his search
smarter.
history, but that was nothing
got a bunch
compared
of
to what they
dickheads
found
on his
at Leah
crew.
Rush's address, where police discovered a hand-drawn plan of the Securitas cash depot under his bed. Needless to say that both of these men were part of the gang that robbed Securitas, and their litany of mistakes had led police right to them within days of the
Hand-drawn
robbery.
plan.
With 2 members of the gang identified, police nabbed another when Stuart Royal was arrested after police found car keys for the cars used in the robbery at his mother's house. Another rookie error, highlighting how little planning had gone into the
Man could have thrown him away at Taco Bell. KFC, because you guys fucking apparently love that fucking shit so much here. He could have thrown it away in numerous places, chucked it in the street, gave it to a homeless person. Like,
They just like throw it in a field somewhere. Like, put it in
there's
a
so
river.
many he could have literally thrown it in the grass in his mother's yard. It would have hidden it better.
Yeah, like,
What the fuck were the kids doing in the house just on a ring? Like, these look familiar, blood. What? Jesus.
aftermath of the robbery. Within a week of the robbery, the police had made 6 arrests of suspected gang members and accomplices and had obtained damning evidence against them. Additionally, they'd identified an employee of the cash depot, Emir Hysanaj, as the inside man who had supplied the robbers with the inside information that had allowed them to pull off the heist. However, there was one pair whose names kept coming up that the police were having trouble tracking down. The net was now closing in rapidly on the robbers, and police were now focused on 2 key names they'd been hearing were heavily involved in the robbery. These key suspects were none other
This big man JK.
what do you think the M on his forehead stands for?
It is for millions at this point. That man's on the dash. He done the race. He got the millions.
I can think of another word that begins with M that's like probably not one that I'm going to use. That might fit more.
Motherfucking idiot.
Yeah, we'll call it that.
'Cause this shit just don't make no sense. This shit just, how, blood? How?
You could, yeah, like Muppet.
Oh, yeah, for sure I'm giving you a Muppet. You're a fucking, you're for sure a Muppet.
But there's another one that you're not allowed to use. But aye,
What am I not allowed to use?
we're not supposed to.
What is it?
We'll discuss this later. But I'm sure you in the
Tell me what the
comments
word
will
is
know.
in the comment section if you
Begins
know.
with an M.
What's it in with?
An O. Let's stop trying to guess it anyway. the M on his forehead definitely stands for that though.
than Lee Murray and Paul Allen. Unlike the rest of the gang, however, this pair sensed they were running on borrowed time and hastily made their escape to France and eventually Amsterdam via Channel crossing ferry. Lee had associates in the Netherlands from time spent training over there, but it was not his intended final destination. After laundering some of the dirty cash they had brought with them, Murray and Allen drove to Spain. Back in the UK, police were trying to find out where the pair had fled to. A search of Lee Murray's house found the phone in his Ferrari with a recording of him talking to Leah Rusher about the robbery, all but confirming that Lee had been one of the robbers. But while police were collecting evidence, Murray
I told you all these cunts decided to go to jail. You recorded your phone call with your bird in your Ferrari on a phone you shouldn't have had and left that bitch for the police to find when you ran off because you knew the police was coming. What kind of shit are you motherfuckers on? What? It's like they had the limitless pill
Yeah.
and then that shit just ran out.
Yeah, they're like,
Like,
oh, shit.
The fuck?
Last one, bastard.
The fucking hell?
and Allen were again on the move, this time to their final destination of Morocco. As mentioned at the start of the video, Lee's father was Moroccan, and Lee's full name of Lee Brahim Murray Lamrani was Moroccan, and this meant that he had a claim to Moroccan
Why is just making
nationality.
sure driving home this
This was
Moroccan
the
point?
crucial factor for the pair choosing to flee to Morocco, because Morocco does not have a formal extradition treaty with the United Kingdom, and also Morocco does not extradite its citizens. While in Morocco, Lee was essentially out of reach of the British justice system, and he'd brought his best mate Paul Allen along for the ride with a suitcase full of cash and plenty more money being laundered through to him. They wasted no time in splashing the cash, and both bought mansions, with Lee's costing £500,000 in cash, with another £200,000 spent on renovations, including this rather tacky mural of Lee's one and only UFC victory against Jorge Rivera. They partied, gambled, and shopped hard with daily trips to the local mall and bar to purchase items such as a £35,000 watch.
Since he
They
got paid.
routinely flew women out from the UK to visit them and paid for the girls to have cosmetic procedures such as breast enhancements and nose jobs. Their daily trips to the shopping centre saw them blowing around £2,000 per day just on clothes. They were living the life they had always dreamed of and enjoying the fruits of their labour, while thousands of miles away from the
Who reposted your pussy?
Lee Murray reposted my pussy.
Lee Murray.
This nigga Lee out here on the Yay mission. Like, bitch, I can cover that. Shit. God damn. Shout out to Lee. This is the best thing you'd have done with the money.
chaos in England, where arrest after arrest was being made.
He didn't even buy his margin
Paradise
house.
wouldn't last for long, and on June 25th, 2006, Lee Murray and Paul Allen were arrested by Moroccan police outside of their favourite shopping centre. The police claimed they had to use specialist techniques to arrest the pair due to their extensive martial arts backgrounds and reputation for firearms. The police search of Murray's mansion in Rabat found hashish and cocaine, the latter an extremely serious offence in a Muslim nation like Morocco. Although British police had requested the arrests of Murray and Allen for the Securitas robbery, they were told their extradition request would have to wait until the drug offences committed in Morocco had been dealt with first. 7 months after their arrest, Murray and Allen were given sentences of 8 months in prison for possession of drugs and assaulting police.
I don't even know my boy Morgan gonna watch this. But shout out to you, Morgan. My nigga in Morocco. I forgot we just Morocco. All this Morocco shit just around. It's like, oh yeah, no nigga out there.
Police officers during their arrest. With this case now out of the way, the extradition to Britain proceedings could take place. Murray's Moroccan lawyer argued that as a Moroccan national, Lee could not be extradited as stated in Moroccan law. He even claimed that Murray couldn't go back to the UK to clear his name, as he would be the victim of anti-Arab racism from the British justice system. Paul Allen was also trying to fight extradition despite having no Moroccan heritage, and was claiming he wanted to become a Muslim and planned to change his name to Omar. This did not work.
We know what the M stands for.
For Paul Allen, and a judge ruled that he was to be extradited back to the UK to face charges related to the robbery, where 7 other members of the gang, including inside man Emir Heisenaj, had been found guilty and sentenced.
So 24 years for the lot of these boys for this job. Eesh. Why he get 20 years? Because he was the inside man.
Maybe.
His wife getting kidnapped and all that was just a ruse.
Was that him?
I think so, because he was the silhouette earlier.
Was he?
Yeah, the silhouette was the I got kidnapped nigga.
Are you sure that was?
I'm pretty sure.
That's him.
Where's the little man? Well, there goes the silhouette, but where's the little breakdown of these niggas again? We got stabbed up. Goddamn. I forgot. I can't find it. We'll just say it wasn't, but it could have been.
Emir Heisenaj had been found guilty and sentenced to lengthy stretches in prison. Paul Allen later pled guilty to 3 charges of kidnap, conspiracy to commit robbery, and possession of a firearm.
He was going to jail anyway.
He was cleared of being one of the gang members who entered the cash depot during the robbery. He was given a sentence of 18 years, of which he would only need to serve half before being released, as well as having the more than 3 years he had spent in custody
They got a good lawyer
in Britain subtracted from the sentence, meaning he would only serve around 7 years in prison for the heist. Murray, on the other hand, was successful in fighting extradition after proving he was a Moroccan national. As a Moroccan national, he could not be extradited, but this did come with a major catch. He was going to be tried for the robbery in Morocco instead. Feeling he had a better chance of beating the case in Morocco, he went along with it and a trial began. While Murray was unsuccessful in beating the case, the Moroccan courts did give him an extremely light sentence of just 10 years, much less than the life sentences handed out to some of his co-conspirators. However, this sentence was appealed by the prosecution for being too lenient, and was increased to a much more daunting 25 years. This was far too long for Lee Murray, who decided to try and escape prison by using small saws he'd had smuggled in to cut through the iron bars of his cell window. To make sure he could fit through the small window, Lee lost a significant amount of weight. However, the plot was discovered when a prisoner broke into Lee's cell to steal belongings and found the saws. Lee was unpopular among his fellow prisoners as they were jealous of the items he'd been able to get into prison, including a laptop with internet access, 5 kilos of drugs, and expensive clothes. Other than his escape attempt, the only other notable piece of news was that he managed to father a child while locked up. To this day, he is still in a Moroccan prison, aged 42, and has given interviews where he still harbours hope of an MMA career when he is finally released. As for Lee's best friend Paul Allen,
I still beat a nigga up when I get out of here though.
Having served just 6 years of his 18-year sentence. He was also let off repaying £1.2 million by a judge, having made a total repayment of just $420.
If he stashed any of that money, smartest cunt in the group is right here.
Oh yeah, he definitely stashed some of that money. Like that's how he's paying like 400k back, and it's like, there you go.
Oh Jesus!
Done it. Like
He might not have been that big of a dickhead. Because think about it like this: say he gets 8 of his million stashed away. 7 years
yeah,
for 8 million? It's not that bad. It's not that bad. And it's tax free too. Now all I gotta do is just spend it slowly. I'll be good for the rest of my life.
yeah. And you just live like a king in jail anyway. If you got that much money on the outside, you just be
Imagine
like,
20K on your books.
do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. You're just like you're just getting stuff imported and that. Like people are using drones to get shit into your cell and that. Like class. I mean, to be fair, I don't condone it. Class, like well done for successfully putting off a Hollywood plot, but you're also arseholes. Like,
Yeah, we should have never heard about you people. You guys could have gotten away, especially in a country that has CCTV fucking up the ass. You guys just like, oh yeah, I'm right here, my nigga. I see you on Wednesday when you finally figure it out. I left you the crumbs though. Like not even crumbs, just entire loaves of bread. Just here you go.
and like they just like, why they like flying people out in that like, and like doing all the ridiculous things where it's just like living like kings in Morocco and that. Like you got to like
Disappear.
disappear and then start investing it and stuff. Like get a company in that, and then once you've got the company, you're laundering it and that. Like start like providing like extreme value for the people of the Morocco area, right? Like, and then after that, like they're just not gonna arrest you for use sound. But like you can't just like immediately like go from like cutting about. I mean, the guy had a Ferrari, so he clearly it's not like he was broke.
Yeah.
But like, come on.
It's fuck. Jesus.
Imagine you rob a deposit, and then you fucking go to Dolce and Gabbana and what are you doing, you fucking donut?
God damn it. You go to your corner shop, it's like, yo, let me just buy everything.
God forbid, man. God forbid these guys ever had iPhones and that. Absolute
Oh my God.
donuts, man.
It'd be over for these niggas to have
Jesus
iPhone. They'd never
Christ.
be able to get the crime done.
And I thought they were good at this as well.
I did.
They
I
were
was like,
really
damn.
efficient, like at one point.
I even said it, but these dickheads.
£20. Nice. He was later photographed by a newspaper with a £7,000 Rolex and a £40,000 car. Needless to say,
We not gonna talk about his 90 pence Capri Sun either. You motherfucker. Shit. That motherfucker might be delicious.
That's it. Also, right, these guys had Ferraris before. Like Lee Murray had a Ferrari before this. Like, because that's the only way he could have left. He had
Yeah.
the Ferrari. So like, is the 40,000 like is £47,000 really that much money? Considering like they were driving cars that worth like 200,000 before.
Not really.
You know, and this guy doesn't seem like the kind of guy who stayed out of the crime world.
Nah, he definitely doesn't. But he, like you said, he does look like he's for sure stashed some of that.
Yeah, for sure.
He stashed some of that.
Uh-huh.
He's living healthy post jail.
Yeah, yeah.
that Paul Allen got off very lightly from his role in the robbery. The other main members of the gang were sentenced to life imprisonment.
Air.
And inside man and Securitas employee Emir Heisenaj was given a 20-year sentence for his role.
Okay.
The story of Lee Murray began in South London, took a brief detour to Las Vegas before ending in a Moroccan
So
prison.
wasn't Colin.
His life has
Colin
been littered
though.
with crimes
There's
and
another
fights,
bit.
and he's now known as the mastermind and ringleader of the biggest cash robbery in world history. In an interview with MMA outlet Bloody Elbow, Lee Murray crowned himself, not Conor McGregor, as the real notorious one, and it's hard to disagree. Lee Murray has had, without doubt, the wildest life of any UFC fighter, past or present, and remains a notorious figure to this day. The end.
And that nigga knocked out his own daddy.
If you got this far, thank you so much for...
Sometimes it needs to be done.
Some mad fucking man right here. Lee Murray. What the fuck?
Yeah, Lee Murray. If I ever become rich and famous and attend a UFC event, and you happen to see this video, and you see me there and you remember me, just know that I never meant anything by any of the comments I made.
This is all patter,
It
blood.
was all patter. We think you're an absolutely fantastic robber.
I love you like your mama love you.
Yeah.
And I hope that means a lot.
It's a good thing, and you made a great decision to spend all that money, and you know it was just unlucky, man.
Man.
It was just unlucky.
They turned their back on you.
Exactly.
They didn't do what they were supposed to.
Exactly. And you too, Paul. You know, very clever guy.
Oh, yeah. Because I we do cut about London sometimes. So,
Yeah.
hey, man. You know you my dog.
Yeah, Paul. Good job, cuz.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that'll be it for us, guys. Thank you for joining us on this one. This was a good one for me. This is fucking mental. If you could, please hit that like and subscribe. Say peace to the people, my boy.
Peace.
All right. Hey, we out of here. You guys have a good evening, day, afternoon, and night.
It's gonna be somewhere where I'm pointing. Just
Yeah, it's somewhere around there.
somewhere.
There's more videos.
Somewhere.
Peace.
Maybe here.